Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you had a great week. Today is February 9th, 2024, and this is your Friday planning video. The market continues to keep things interesting. Everything we talk about here in the planning video can easily be pushed aside if you listen too much to the news every day. So as always, I want to remind you that the videos on Monday are all about what's going on day to day in the markets and the economy. While this is important, it's easy to get lost in this and miss the true focus. We are continuing to focus on your goals, short-term, long-term, and this is so important. Two fun phrases I heard lately, and I want to share them with you. One now, one later. First, you get what you plan for. This is so true, and over the years, this has confused many people. Goals are a dynamic thing, and as they change, the plans you make to reach them have to pivot also. This is why it is so important to try to fix it, not to try to fix it and forget it. That's not the idea to do that for that plan. I want to focus on one demographic for a few moments, but it really goes for a lot of different groups, so you can think of it regardless of your age. As I mentioned, the goals and plans of yesterday, they often give way to the new plans. How about this? According to the Retirement Income Institute, it's estimated that 4.1 million Americans will reach the age of 65 this year. That's about 11,200 per day. That's up even from the 10,000 per day last decade. The key here is that many of these people are looking at the next act, the next chapter that they can write. The old plans, our grandparents, many of them were not thinking about new ventures and new possibilities at 65. They were thinking about winding down. With the wealth and health of so many these days, the planning no longer has to make it through just a few years, because now we're planning on a base case of a few decades. So, how does this change your planning? Nearly 20% of Americans over 65 were employed in some way in 2023. That's nearly double where we were 35 years ago, based on a Pew Research Center. In addition to that, or maybe because of that, median net worth is close to 50% higher than it was just in 2010, adjusted for inflation. The reason I bring this up is that in recent weeks, I've had some experience with clients, tales from the front lines, as I call them, that don't take this longer and more active life into account. What do I mean by this? I hear a lot of the 5% money market or bank deposit levels. The numbers are astounding. Over $6 trillion in cash these days, according to many sources, including a recent Bloomberg story. I also hear a lot of the common refrain that the market is too high, I'll sell now and buy back in a later time. As is always the case, I don't make market calls on this video, nor do I recommend buying or selling. I believe that doing so is way too broad brushed. Some of you should not be exposed to risk assets such as stocks, and some of you can and maybe even should. This is for our meetings individually, so let me know. What's important is that you realize that the inflation and taxes that affect us all and the life expectancy require that you have sufficient amount of assets. This is where we do some calculations to see what your investment growth rates will do for you, depending on what they have been and what they may be. Stress testing investment portfolios is a key to being better prepared for what the market may bring you. So overall, this brings me to a few items and then that second phrase. And lastly, one additional request. First, one of the most common savings vehicle for those that are working now is the corporate retirement account. Those 401ks, 403bs and such. These can be such a great benefit for you as you use proper tax planning to either save tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth. Reminder, I don't provide personal tax or legal advice, but this is an important conversation to have with your tax advisor. Recent changes in the law may suggest to you to make some changes to that as well. In those retirement plans, here are a few things I recommend, and as we are just getting started in the second month of the year, now's a good time to be sure your deferral into your plan is going where you want it to go. Now that can mean a few different things. First, do you want to do a pre-tax or after-tax deferral? That is, do you want to have traditional or Roth in your plan? I've recently seen a plan participant have an error occur where it was going to the wrong bucket, and the only way they found out was on the annual W-2 form. By then, it's usually too late. Also, take this time to be sure your investments are in the funds you want them to be. This is a key opportunity to talk to me about a new way that I can assist you with this part of your planning. I'm a big believer that I can help you with this, especially when you're talking about this retirement asset that most of you don't check in on enough. Please ask me about this. Finally, about this. Use this time to check your deferral amount. The new amounts for 2024 are up from 2023 for most people, and please, please, please check the beneficiaries on your plans. And now, as I promised you, that second phrase. So many of you work to get a nest egg to live on in retirement. What I find, and I love this phrase, is that by the time you look around, you may find, if we were successful in the planning over the years, you may find that you have sufficient assets to live on. But you also have to have assets. You also have assets that you need to figure out the best way to leave on.
This is where the next level of planning should come in. This is a huge part of our planning, and family estate and wealth transfer planning is as important now as it ever has been. There are a lot of new laws that make this even more important to discuss. As I said, I don't give legal or tax advice, but in coordination with your tax and legal advisors, it may be time to review your plans, your trusts, and your insurance contracts. Remember, those contracts were bought many years ago in many cases. If you provide me a recent statement, we can get an updated idea of what this contract will do for you and if it's still the right one for you. Okay, it's time to run into the weekend. We'll have our market update video this coming Monday, and then no working Monday the next week as President's Day comes around again, so we can look forward to a short week, not next week, but the week after. For now, have a great weekend and stay in touch.